good morning.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. We're a day behind, but I said I'm no longer making any promises about my upload schedule because I've been the worst. We have a couple things to talk about today during our little tea time.
Okay.
Okay.
You're the boss.
I'm the boss. Okay, I'm the boss. Very serious. The first is, I guess we should go oldest to newest. So the oldest thing I wanted to talk about, which we didn't talk about, was the security thing.
Yeah.
Which is that the timing was suspicious, as Harry pointed out in the statement. All this Prince Andrew news came out, and all of a sudden, all the tabloid news wants to talk about is they spun it that Harry wants taxpayers to pay for security when him and his family are in the UK, which is absolutely not what Harry said,
Right.
which was that he is willing to pay for, they're willing to privately pay for security, which they do in California. They can't bring the same level of security to the UK for whatever reason. And they're asking that they be allowed to pay for private security or for Met security. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, first off, it's this ridiculous controversy because really, if they need security and if there's going to be a royal family in Britain and if it's going to be tax supported in any way, I don't understand why they wouldn't be part of that. I personally think
he committed the only sin you can commit apparently as a family. First he married a black lady.
Well, yeah,
and then he left.
Yeah,
which apparently are the only bad things. You can do pretty much anything else.
Right. But I mean, so I don't remotely get why. I mean, you can have all the arguments, which we've sort of had and people have obviously had about whether there should be a royal family, who should pay for it, everything like that. But given the current state of affairs and that there is a royal family and they're paid for to some degree, large degree, however degree, and that it's likely that Harry and Meghan would need security and their kids, it should get paid for. But that's kind of beside the point because Harry already said he'd pay for it himself.
Which is stupid, though.
Right. It's stupid that he even has to make that gesture.
Yes.
But the fact that he's willing to do it and then it still gets spun into some nonsense is telling. Again,
it's very telling.
They always tell on themselves.
They always tell on themselves. And the fact that it's not just the royal family. Apparently, the whatever I want to call it, the Met, but I don't know. Whatever body provides this security does so for like Tony Blair, like past politicians, like diplomat. Like it's not just the royal family, and it is very hard to argue that Harry and Meghan haven't reached the status of people who need security.
Right.
Specifically because so much of their time in the royal family, both the press and we would argue, which was supported by the family, specifically kind of whipped up some racially motivated hatred towards them. I mean, they've been told multiple times that they have a security risk.
Right.
And then last time when Harry was there by himself, he was leaving some event. And he got, again, swarmed by photographers. There's photos of him looking very upset in a car. You can understand why he's like, yeah, I'm not bringing my family over to this if you guys aren't.
Well, and it just smacks of more of the, not only creating a fake controversy around the security that doesn't and shouldn't exist, either because it gets paid for, because Harry pays for it. Yeah. Harry and Meghan. I mean, I think it's probably a joint thing.
Sure.
But it's another controversy because now they won't come because there's no security.
Yeah.
And they can't bring their own. And then it'll be turned into, oh my God, they didn't come for the Queen's Jubilee or whatever heck for whatever the heck they don't come for.
Yeah.
It'll be turned into, it's like it has two scandals in one.
Yeah.
They can then claim that somehow Harry and Meghan are horrible people for not coming.
Yes.
When it's,
Well, and I would like to also, there's another level to this in that members of the royal family have privately paid for security for people they care about. Charles paid for security for Camilla. I think there was a point that Kate got privately funded security and publicly funded security before she was married, as she was drunkenly walked out of nightclubs by royal protection officers. My whole thing is, if your thing if you're still trying to play the angle that you did everything you could to keep Harry and Meghan in the family, you never heard about all these issues, you're just gobsmacked by why they hate you so much, per them, I don't think they hate each other, but why, if there's past precedent, why isn't Charles offering to pay for it? Why isn't the Queen offering to pay for it? I'm saying we know why, but I'm just saying there's another level to this in that in the past, members of the royal family have paid for security for people they care about, and that has absolutely not been offered to Harry and Meghan.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, they tell on themselves constantly, and they just somehow, how they think this is good for them at this point, I have no idea, but they clearly still seem to think that this is the right tack.
And it's a risk to them because Diana's death was kind of seen as a horrible series of errors. But it was forgiven because it was like, oh, these were mistakes. Because it's well assumed that she would not have gotten in that car if she had had royal protection extended to her. And there's this big debate whether it was extended and she denied or it was never extended. I don't want to get into that right now. But I think there is a general acknowledgement that some mistakes were made towards Diana's level of protection after she left the royal family.
Yeah.
If something were to happen to Harry and Meghan after all of this is in public record, especially, maybe not so much towards Meghan, but I'm just saying, if something were to happen to them or their kids after all of this is in public record, the parallels to Diana would be overwhelming, and that is an existential threat to them.
I think it is, but I think they realize that Harry's not going to put himself in that situation. Sure. Obviously you can't protect against all risks, but they're not going to go. They're not going to go to they're not going to go to the UK if they can't have the security they think they need.
Sure.
And so I think and maybe that's what the royal family's banking on, that that I don't know.
I'm just saying, I think they're being stupid because I think they underestimate the existential risk to them if something were to happen
and of
to Harry
all the things,
Meghan or the kids.
Of all the things to kind of be
cheap
and petty and sort of duplicitous about, security seems to be a really stupid thing to withhold from people. But
they're petty.
Yeah.
They're petty.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Next thing was Cardi B. Yeah. Cardi B won her defamation suit. You are a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
But I don't know I don't think this is the type of law you worked in.
No, and it's honestly not something I followed super closely either. So,
did you watch my video about it? No, she didn't.
No,
she didn't watch
not.
My video about it. Anyway, it's a big deal because YouTube and other social media platforms have been very, very resistant to any kind of I don't know, just kind of cleaning up their content. And defamation is huge here on YouTube. Someone commented to me the other day that, not only does hate sell, but hate is easy. It is easy just to throw out these crazy things with no research, with nothing, and they bring in big dollars. So hopefully what this lawsuit does is, at the very least, kind of scare some big creators into, you could be open to a defamation suit.
Well, and unlike in the UK, from what I can tell, and I don't know a thing really about law there other than what I read, but obviously because so many lawsuits have been brought by public figures against newspapers and others and succeeded, their defamation law, it's much, much, much harder to prove defamation in the United States, especially by a public figure. So the fact that it's successful is kind of an example of how bad it is.
Well, yes.
Because,
it's hard to
it's
prove.
really hard to, it's much harder to prove here. For a public figure to prove defamation, you have to prove that there was actual malice involved.
Yes.
It's very hard. And so...
But can I cut in here for a second?
Yeah.
It is hard to prove when it's from organizations that are kind of used to it. The YouTuber Cardi B sued Tasha K fell apart.
Yeah.
I mean, she had no defense.
Yeah.
She admitted a bunch of things she shouldn't have, which made the case easier. It's much harder in the U.S. for a public figure to go against, like, the New York Times, like, or some other large figure, again, with those gatekeepers who know how to put in the right buzzwords, in my opinion, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I think this is such a big deal because there are so many individual large follower YouTubers who aren't aware of these things, who don't protect themselves in the same way that a large organization would.
Yeah.
And I think it's big because Cardi B sued her.
Yeah.
Out of all the damages, which are like $4 million,
yeah,
which apparently also can't be erased in bankruptcy. I was reading that because it was deemed like malicious.
Yeah.
Only like $500,000 is coming from her company. The rest is from her.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the very least, I'm hoping that this kind of, since YouTube and other big platforms don't seem to want to really clean it up, maybe this will scare some sense into YouTubers in that, yes, you can make a lot of money off of hate, but if someone sues you, you might be in deep shit.
Yeah. And that would be a good thing.
And this, of course, why we were interested in this is because Meghan Markle, and I mean Prince Harry to a much lesser degree, it's almost always focused on Meghan, has a huge hate corner on YouTube. And, I mean, some of these people have made, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I don't really watch their content, but I've watched... Saki, the younger dog, would like you to know that she's here. But there's plenty that has been said on these Twitter accounts and these YouTube channels that smells pretty strongly like defamation.
Yeah.
And that they're kind of just lucky that Harry and Meghan haven't decided to sue them. Because they probably could.
Probably. And I mean, they've probably just made some sort of decision not to.
Well, who knows?
Yeah,
who knows? I mean, they just sued. I mean, she has very, very well-paid lawyers who I'm sure can advise her on what to do. But she also just won the mail on Sunday. I mean,
well, and you don't want to. I mean, even if you have lawyers that are out there doing the work and you don't have to really pay attention to it, spending your life in litigation is not fun. So,
no. But I'm just saying, hopefully this lawsuit, it was big because it was a threat from outside of YouTube. It was a very famous person who had the money to spend 2 years in court, but successfully sued a single YouTuber for defamation.
Right. And I mean, it's also a good lesson in, people get very confused about the First Amendment, and obviously the government can't stop you from saying almost anything you want to say. I mean, there's limits to everything, but you don't have a First Amendment right to spew hate on a social media platform.
No.
Which, I think some people on lots of social media platforms are sort of surprised to understand. And I mean, if there's consequences beyond just getting booted off the platform, and there's monetary consequences so that you can't make money off that, then hopefully that stops people from thinking it's a good idea in the future.
Well, and it goes back to this huge problem we have versus like fact and opinion and how it's gotten so blurry. And I mean, this YouTuber could have saved herself if she hadn't presented those awful things she said as fact.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole big part, is you have to present the information as fact. And if she had thrown in in my opinion, I heard, but I don't know. I mean, it's actually not hard to kind of defend yourself against defamation in the United States. But that just goes back to just a societal problem we have of, alternative facts and what is fact and what is opinion. And I try very hard to throw in my opinion or...
Well, and I think people really do think, the First Amendment exists, therefore I have the right to say whatever I want, wherever I want, with zero consequences. And it's the consequences part that people don't seem to understand.
Yes.
Because, yes, you have the right to say whatever you want to say without government interference. Mm-hmm. there's no right to not have consequences for your speech.
Yes.
As from private actors. You know, I mean, the government can't stop you. The government can't throw you in jail. The government can't fine you, whatever.
Which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing. But there's absolutely nothing to say that, people can't clap back at you for what you say. There's nothing to say that a social media platform can't say, we're not hosting your
You might lose your job.
speech. You might lose your job. There's lots of ways that there can be consequences. And I think it's sort of good that people are kind of starting to realize that. Spotify.
Yes. I canceled my Spotify. We gotta get Glenn. Glenn has a Spotify. No, it is a. I think this was just kind of a small thing that kind of represents our bigger problem.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I totally just forgot what I was gonna say.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I said Spotify.
Sorry. And it just goes back to that these platforms aren't enforcing their own stated rules, which is Cardi B shouldn't have had to sue.
Right.
Meghan Markle shouldn't have to sue.
Right.
These videos violate the code of use. I forget what that's called. The internal guidelines, and they're not taken down by the platforms.
Money makes the world go round.
I know. Engagement is cash.
Yep.
Okay. Last topic, because Mom has to go to work.
Yeah.
Prince Andrew, of course. We always talk about Prince Andrew, because what a loser.
Yeah.
So apparently Virginia Giuffre has always wanted a jury trial. So this new news that he wants that he made this whole thing about, I want a jury trial, really actually wasn't news. Yeah. But it still seems kind of shocking that there has been no motion from his camp to kind of like shut this down in any way. Like I don't know. It just seems like they are blustering through this thing.
It does seem like that publicly anyway. I mean, there'd really be no way for us to know if anything settly is going on.
And she said she doesn't want to settle.
Right. But one thing about courts is they will strong arm. Courts want to get rid of cases.
Yeah.
And they will make concerted efforts to force the parties to try and settle. Doesn't always work. May not work in this case. Maybe it's going to go to trial, which would be super entertaining. But and I mean that I realize it's a horrible underlying set of facts.
Yes.
I mean, it would just be interesting to see how, Andrew specifically and the whole family reacts to there being a trial. But the court will do everything it can to try and make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So there will be monetary pressure. There'll be pressure from the court. There'll be, so we'll see. And I mean, obviously their attorneys could be on the phone 10 hours a day and we wouldn't know it. So.
That's true. What's your sense? Because the big argument on our Twitter is like, is he getting like bad legal advice or is he just a horrible client? Or I guess it could be both.
Could be both.
Yeah.
I mean, and if she really doesn't want to settle, there's only so much they can do. I mean, you can't really do much.
Yeah.
And I mean, so, kind of blustering forward, trying to put on your best case is all they can do if it's really not going to settle. I mean,
well, and especially if he's guilty of what he's accused of.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a client who did what he's accused of, who's kind of a giant shithead, excuse my French, and she doesn't want to settle, right. You're kind of screwed.
Yeah. And I mean, he's not going to admit it in a million years.
No.
I mean, so, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like there's not much else they can do other than, side track, pursue settlement.
Which, and I've gotten kind of in arguments on Twitter about this too, is, when it wasn't clear that she had always wanted a jury trial and it seemed like he was the one asking for this, it's disappointing, but I could see a world where he convinces enough jurors.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, I mean, if she hadn't wanted a jury trial, I absolutely... his only shot is to kind of convince the jury that he's this, awesome guy, royal family, blind them with his royalness, whatever he does. I mean, he has a way better chance with a jury than with a judge.
Well, he always had a better chance with a jury than a judge because this judge doesn't seem to give a shit that he's a member of the royal family. But also...
as they shouldn't.
As they shouldn't. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. No. What I was saying is that while I think we have made strides in the past couple years... I think it is not hard to see, especially, I mean, it'll depend on what the jury looks like, a Prince Andrew figure being able to convince some middle-aged or older white dudes that he is being maligned, that he is being attacked by this money-grubbing whore. I mean, I hate to say that word, but that is what they will low-key / high-key present to a jury, and it is not hard to see how he gets away with that. And that's very sad.
It is sad. But, hopefully whatever facts they can put on are so egregious that even, middle-aged
there's
white
pictures.
Dudes,
And he's really done some stupid... that interview, he's done a lot of really stupid things. Which is why that argument gets brought up all the time. Is he just getting bad advice? And that just goes back to the whole royal family thing. Yeah. Because the next thing I wanted to talk about in this topic is how bad it is for the royal family that they so misjudge this threat to them.
Yeah.
And what that says about their leadership and what that says, and it always goes back to, are they getting bad advice or will they not take good advice? Because it seems like outside of a very small percentage of people, mostly in the UK, or very right-wingers here in the US, that people kind of have an understanding that they're screwing up.
Yeah.
And so it's like, again, are they getting bad advice or will they not take good advice?
It's probably a combination.
Yeah.
And I think so much of it, which, really I think is bottom line for so many problems, here, there, everywhere, is that I think they're probably narcissistic enough to just think that, this is, no one would mess with them or no one would push this or no one would hold Andrew's conduct against them or whatever. I really do think they're just so insulated, and this is what happens when you make people think they're special by virtue of their birth, of an accident, this is kind of a sideways even accident because the current royal family wouldn't be in possession of the monarchy. They'd be much lesser royals had, good old Uncle Edward not abdicated,
sure.
So it's like a double accident. And when you tell people that by virtue of absolutely nothing except those accidental things that they are special and exalted, and you give them a ton of money. Sorry, my voice is going.
Coffee?
No, thank you.
This is the result.
They believe it.
Yeah.
It just highlights, why maybe we should not put people on pedestals
based on
like we do based on nothing other than, you were born into the right family at the right time and external circumstances, happen to, bump you up.
Well, I just tweeted yesterday or today that hereditary monarchy is a stupid concept.
Yeah.
Because especially back in the day where they were actually like the leaders of a country, you get what you get.
Yeah.
And I know there's always been some fumbling. The oldest son came out weird.
And sometimes, democracy and voting doesn't make it any better.
That's true. That's true. We've been there. We've done that.
Sometimes don't get the best and the brightest.
As a concept, it's stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And if not stupid, outdated and dangerous in some respects. It's just kind of. I don't know. Obviously, the world is unfair. People have more advantages than others. People that don't seem to have any redeeming qualities succeed, where very good people seem to, fall on hard times. But why make that worse? I mean, that's just kind of an inherent thing in life, but why make that worse by taking this group of people and somehow lifting them up, for nothing? And I don't know.
Doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. And it gives them an outsized sense of their own importance, and I think insulates them from life and the world in ways that are not necessarily very productive for anybody.
Okay. All right. Anyway, cancel your Spotify subscription, please.
Yes.
And do not listen to Joe Rogan. We know he is spewing COVID misinformation.
Yeah. Vaccines work.
And being a jackass. You don't have to listen to him to find that out. You just give him engagement. So that's my sign off. Cancel your Spotify. Do not listen to Joe Rogan.
Get vaccinated and boosted.
Well, I think most of my listeners are vaccinated. But if you aren't, get vaccinated.
And boosted.
And boosted. Goodbye.
Goodbye.